Kirk is not an attorney. This is not legal advice. This is to be considered for educational purposes only.
Welcome to the Wednesday call-in show version of Kirk's Law Corner Live with your hosts, Kirk Pendergrass, John Gentry, and Chris Hallett.
What is happening?
Good evening, folks. Thanks for joining us, our Wednesday night call-in show. I forgot to close the door. But anyway, quite an exciting day around my house today. But before we get into that, we got Christopher Hallett over there and John Gentry. How you doing, brothers?
Not too shabby, bro. What's been up, man? I was going to ask you what happened earlier today.
Well, let me kill this door real quick. Pretty crazy stuff, man. We had I guess just kind of came on the news and they kind of explained a little bit more about it. It was just a live training round, tanker round. So I guess one of the employees over here at Henderson Wheel, which is literally like right kind of next to my house across the street. One of the employees found one of these rounds laying on the ground or something, took it inside and was taking it apart, injured him and three others. So I'm seriously injured. But yeah, I actually got a little interview here from Channel 2 News just a little bit ago, and she said it might be on at 6 and 9, but I guess Channel 2 does theirs at 5:30 and 9. I watched the 5:30 one and wasn't on there, but you know, she doesn't get to make that kind of decision.
Right?
Being not the producer like Mr. Ted over there. He does a great job for producing us. So
oh yeah, that's right.
Give that thanks out to there.
Ted in the house, making sure that we're able to do this, and not like for myself personally, I spent most of today on the phone, so didn't get a whole lot of writing done, but I did get a lot of conversating done. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. We'll see if everybody's talked out and doesn't want to call into the show now since they're talked out. So I don't know. I guess we're going to kind of play it by ear and see how it works, see how it goes.
Right.
Yeah. I did in the Supreme Court, I did a motion to proceed as a veteran, saying, I swore an oath to defend the Constitution. I shouldn't have to pay to perform my duty. I'd like to proceed as a veteran and on the papers. And they said, no, you're going to have to pay, and you're going to have to file under Rule 33.1. And so that's that. If you can see over the back of my shoulder, that's that big stack of paper underneath the lamp. That's just 3/4 of it I stole. It's taking me a week just to do the printing. Take about an hour a day and work on the printing for it. And this weekend I'll cut it and bind it and put it into booklet form. And so this weekend I should have everything set and ready to go. So that's my doings.
They damn well better. You go through all this work to do all that, they better hear your case.
Yeah, I'm not after money. I don't want any monetary reward out of this. I just want to reinstitute the principles that this country was founded for and apply due process. That's all I want.
Well, it's funny you bring this up, John. I was thinking about that question you asked when you asked, does a state vitiate its sovereign immunity when it is no longer Republican in form or character? And I believe the question is the answer is in the question. In other words, it's, look, we already know this, or I wouldn't be here. My question to you is, what is the court going to do about it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's your job, not mine. My job is to bring this information to you, which I am doing to the best of my ability in accordance with the rules and all of the blah, blah, blah that you guys have managed to cook up over the years.
Despite the fact that you're making me pay to do it and making me go through all this ridiculous, jump through all these hoops and
right,
print on cardstock 60-pound paper.
Right. Because, I mean, in essence, that's pretty much exactly what I've been doing. You know, I went back through and I actually cleaned up my whole area here today. I spent most of the day while I was on the phone just picking papers up and putting them in boxes. I said, you know what, I'll go through it later. I just got to get it the hell out of my hair. And, you know, when I actually got down to and said, holy crap, there's a table under all this garbage, you know, and took the rag in the cleaner and cleaned it all off. And it's like, okay, now I'm starting to feel like me again, right? And as I'm going through this, that question of yours popped into my mind. I'm like, son of a bitch, we already know this. We don't have to ask them this. This is us saying, hey, dude, you know your job. I know your job. Here's what the law says. What are you going to do about it?
And that's a pretty good question for the Supreme Court, don't you think?
I would think
nobody's
so.
ever asked that question.
Well, and that's just it. It's not a matter of asking them, do they lose their immunity? We tell them, hey, they've already lost their immunity. We know it. You know it. I know it, or I wouldn't be here.
And of course, my state constitution, Kirk's state constitution says that. I'm not sure about Florida, Chris, but it says I have a right to reform the government, an unalienable, indefeasible right to reform the government in such manner as I think proper. So, of course, this sovereign immunity doesn't apply. And that's
it's funny because you know what brought this even into my head? As I said, as I'm cleaning up in here and I'm getting, you know, I'm trying to reorganize stuff. So when we do the show, it's presentable. I don't feel like I'm like, oh Lord, I'm buried under a mountain of crap. Right.
Like me. Right.
So, you know, as I'm looking around and I'm starting to, you know, move the pictures and stuff on the wall, I looked at it and I'm like, well, wait a minute. I already did that. It says it right there. Son of a bitch. I didn't have to ask them. I just had to walk in there and say, hey, you're going to do this, 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 and this. And they went, okay. And it's like, wait, no way. No way it's this simple. And, you know, it's like, you know, am I speaking in a different language? And I'm looking through like, oh, I see what it is. I am speaking in a different language. No wonder they're starting to understand and take notice.
Laka pizza?
Say that again?
Laka pizza?
I see. Well, what he say right there? What he say?
That's why the Sixth Circuit totally ignored and didn't address my question stated right in my brief, issues presented to the court. You know, does the state vitiate sovereign immunity when it's no longer Republican in character or form? And they, crickets, man, didn't address it at all because they can't defeat it, I think. You know,
well, it's just
no counter-argument.
The answer is
do a straight up declaratory judgment. Are the states within constitutional limitations of a Republican form of government or not?
No. You don't say, are they? You say they are, right? They are. And here's where the deficiency is. Here's where the repugnancy is. Here's where this thing is. And you go down through it and you start just naming shit. And I'm like, well, that's the significance of my reporting versus filing a motion. Like, it's like, wait a minute. I don't have to motion to take possession of something that is already mine.
Right.
Guess what? This is already mine, and yours, 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 yours, yours. I just went in from a different angle and said, by the way, since this is mine, here's what we're going to do about it, and here's where you screwed up. And they're like, okay, okay. And that's why I said the reality started to hit me as I was cleaning this mess out. I'm like, you know what? I was so pissed at myself once I got to the table, because I'm thinking, you know what? I wasted how much time on this project when all I had to do was in the beginning and was walk in there and say, you sit there and shut up, you sit there and shut up, and you sit there and shut up. Here's what's going on. Because that's ultimately speaking exactly what I did.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, Lord, you know.
I did that for the Sixth Circuit. I laid it out just like that. I said,
yeah,
my Constitution says I have a right to reform the government.
Yeah, it's like,
the state has vitiated its immunity.
right.
It's no longer Republican in character. And I said, the fact that it's not Republican in character, here's all the facts. Unconstitutional laws, no means to address grievances against the state.
Right.
State actors can violate our rights with impunity. Of course, they must be reformed. The state doesn't dispute the fact at all that they need to be reformed. And the Sixth Circuit just said nothing about it. They just said, oh, sovereign immunity, can't sue them.
Right. And here's the thing about it. We already know they don't have sovereign immunity. We've got case precedent that establishes that. So for them to come out and say, oh, there's immunity. Oh, bullshit. You know it and I know it. Right. And because we're saying, you know, hey, look, this is not a monetary thing. If you want to know what the monetary thing is, here, I sent you a follow-up report. You know what it is. You wrote it. So if you want to talk the monetary end of this, there, I left it on the last page. Why? Because it's the last in my priorities. Right?
Here's one I kind of put it in that piece. I said, so in the Tennessee statutes, it says that the state removes immunity for slip and fall. You can sue the state for slip and fall. Negligent driver. You can sue the state for negligent driver. So you can sue the state when the attorneys are getting paid. But when you're trying to enforce the right of due process, you can't sue.
Right.
And so I made the argument, you know, the state can't choose to be sovereign, you know, in certain circumstances, which just happen to be when the lawyers are getting paid, and then say, oh, well, we're sovereign in these other instances when the legal profession is being questioned.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling them, I'm not questioning you. I'm telling you, this is the conflict. You know, we can go through the history. We can go through, you know, the various writings and regurgitate a bunch of word salad all day long. Guess what? That doesn't change where we are right here and right now. And again, like I said, the only thing you're going to hear is crickets, because this is not boiling down to what the law says. We already know what that says. How many times have we done this, Kirk? How many? You know, we could do this for years and get bored with it. It's the defects in the practice. It's the defects in the enforcement. It's the methodology and the bad ideology that has been laid, kind of usurped and laid over top of our form of government. You know, and it's when you sit and you watch the news and you hear a certain political faction that shall remain nameless, but it kind of rhymes with liberals. They keep talking about our democracy. I don't see a democracy. I see a constitutional republic, and I'm going to tell you how I know that. Because basically, what it says right here is,
you know what's exciting?
The book, last cover page, it says, at the conclusion of the Constitutional Convention, Benjamin Franklin was asked, "What have you just wrought?" And he answered, "A republic, if you can keep it."
Yeah.
It doesn't say a democracy.
Right.
It doesn't say a socialist democracy. It says a republic. So, because that's what it says, that's what we're going to go with.
And the gal that did that interview with me, Channel 2 News, you know, I asked her after we talked a little bit, and so we were talking about Kirk's Law Corner stuff, and you know, asked her how old she was. Said she was 24, and I'm like, oh, thank God, because what she said was, oh, by the way, you know, we were talking about stuff, and she's like, yeah, we're a republic. And I was like,
Right.
oh man, it's such a relief to hear you say that, because someone from that age group, 24 years old, gives me hope, that some of these people are actually reading this stuff themselves. And I was like, how do you know that? She's like, well, we were at the Channel 2 News there, and we were talking about it. We were a republic or a democracy, whatever, and she said she went and looked it up, and we're a republic. So everybody that was there with her all just got informed, educated that we are a republic. And she followed that up with, yeah, and our rights can't be put to a vote. I'm like, thank you. 24 years old.
That's pretty good for a 24-year-old.
Yes. I'm ecstatic that someone from that age group that just, we're a democracy and our rights aren't put to a vote, because we were talking about the Second Amendment stuff. And just like, she's like, I don't get it. The people that are arguing to take away the guns, they don't realize that they're taking away their own guns to defend themselves.
This is something that absolutely astounds me, Kirk, is that there is so much defense of our right to bear arms under the Second Amendment, and nobody's saying squat about our right of due process guaranteed under the Fifth Amendment in federal courts and the 14th Amendment in state courts. Nobody's saying squat about it. And that right is gone. It's done. And when we lose our right of due process, then how do we defend our right to bear arms in the courts? It astounds me that the American public is completely ignorant that we have no means to enforce the right of due process anymore.
And there's the key word, enforce. Oh, sweet. Who we got?
I have the dinger on, and I'm not hosting, am I? Oh, sweet. Who we got? I have the dinger on tonight.
Hello?
Hey.
Hello?
Hey.
What are you doing?
Oh, just listening and learning.
There we go. Yeah.
As always, I learn more on here than I do anywhere else.
You learn more.
That's a good thing. That probably explains why our phones blow up all day long. So.
You got it. So my question right now, I guess, is, I know where we're at, what we talked about Saturday, Chris. The medical records, I have them pretty much all went through. Do we need to have those sent along with the brief and everything that we're doing?
I think at this point we go in because this is a preliminary. Less is more, right?
That's what I figured too.
Right. We just go in and say, hey, look, let's focus on this one event, like we talked about. We're focusing on this one event. We're going to go in and we're going to say, hey, look, I don't like it any more than you do. It happened. It's done. Right? You can't.
Exactly.
For any number of 100,000 reasons, we know you can't do it. And,
right.
It's time to just take and call this sucker over and be done with it. And
that's the thing. They don't realize that we can actually go a lot further than what we are. We can take pretty much everybody that's had their names on my paper down, including police officers, CPS, and everything. Right. So, it is what it is, and they need to fix it.
Yeah, we're saying, hey, look, at this point, it is what it is. I mean, if they wanted to, we know why they did what they did. They wanted it to get ugly, right? You know it. We know it. Now we're telling you that we know it. So quit doing it.
Well, I think this is what I think that they thought, that I didn't know the law. I was never going to get to where I'm at. I'm never going to find the people that I found, like you guys, for instance.
Right.
And they could just play their game and I'd go along with it and I'd lose and there's nothing I can do about it. Well, I put my foot down, didn't stop, and I'm never going to stop. Like I've said to you and everybody else, I'm not going to stop till these kids are home. I never did anything to hurt these kids. There's no reason for them to be where they're at. except for trusting the wrong person when I was recovering from an accident. Now, I mean, you know, right there you go. And being falsely accused all these years, and I've shown you the proof of everything. And so John Gentry, I showed him, and Brian Kinter as well. And they were just like blown away by it. Like, really? I mean, do they want to take this into federal? We can. Yeah.
I mean, in federal, they die, and they know it. You know,
exactly.
Well, if you have an attorney and don't get dismissed right away.
Say that again, Kirk?
I said, well, if you have attorney or don't get dismissed right away.
Right. So
that's where we're at. He keeps getting dismissed, no matter what he does. Okay, so the last order that he put in front of the court was not dismissed, but continued, and that was in November, and it said that they would reschedule it for a later date. We're now in April, and we still haven't seen no more paperwork or nothing. They're not doing nothing but sitting on it.
Exactly, because they know they can't.
Summary judgment. They ain't responded.
Exactly.
Yep. So I say one of the things that I kind of contemplated was, you know, just for giggles, write up a couple of orders, right? And attach them as appendix to the report. Give them an option, right? Here, we can do this multiple different ways, right? And, you know, this is the most simplistic way. We clear the court docket of this whole monstrosity. Kids go back with mom where they belong. And, you know, we're done, right? You know, for us to go into this whole long monstrosity story isn't going to help you. It's not going to help us. It's sure not going to help the kids. So, all the more reason, you know, of these options, like I said, and I'm devising a couple of different ones that I'm going to obviously email you in the PDF.
Okay.
Prepare the master file, and you know, let you kind of take a look over it and see which one you like best, and you know, whatever. So,
okay, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here still without my kids, and I get that, okay, the kid's lawyer wanted to say, you don't want to traumatize your kids any more than they already are, do you? And just rip them away, because they know I can. At this point, I could, you know.
My rebuttal is, you didn't think about that when you took my kids from me to begin with.
That's right. Thank you, Kirk. You're right.
Just because you steal my car and you've had it for 6 months doesn't mean that, you know, you get to keep it.
Right.
That's right.
Now.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, possession is not 9/10 of the law.
Nope.
That's
not when it comes to kids.
Not when it comes to theft or kidnapping.
Yeah, and especially fraud on a court. So.
Right. That's pretty much where I'm at with it. Is, you know, and I told the lawyer that day, and Chris wasn't there, and I only had a couple people that were with me that really didn't know too much to say on that, except for what I then said was I brought the emoluments up, and he kind of stuttered and, oh, we're going to have to talk about that in court. Okay, whatever. But then I brought up the fact that, well, they didn't give me any choice when they took the children in the first place. I didn't hurt them. There was not CPS in the beginning or anything like that. And then they take the baby by CPS later on that was born after these two children were kidnapped. And we now have proof, and I showed it to Chris as well. Like, even before the baby was born, the kidnapper is the one that tried to push CPS to take the baby. We have the proof now and have it all in line that we can see she's behind that as well.
Correct. And having me come in with the report, pointing those facts out, right? This is me saying it. It's not you saying it. So there's no... That's why I said, as far as the way the court works and the way the court hears things, it just works better, you know, because, you know, in the right of due process, you have the right to assistance of counsel. It doesn't say you have to have this person with this thing over here, right there. Anybody, and that's what they try to lead you to believe. And it's wrong.
It doesn't say you have the right to be represented by an attorney, and if you can't afford one will be appointed to you. No, it says you have the right to assistance of counsel. If you want to go to the verbiage on that, it says you have the right to the assistance of counsel of your choice.
Right. And that's another thing, good thing that you brought that up as well, was the fact that when I walked into the custody hearing that CPS then took the baby, she appointed me an attorney that did not do his job, and we can use ineffective counsel on that. And they have adopted him out now. As of right now, his name is changed. His name's been changed before they even adopted him, and CPS did nothing about it. So, the thing is they're not in Fayette County. They're not doing anything but sitting on it and waiting to see what we're going to do. That's what I think.
Right. And basically they know what this looks like because, what was that? Is that a connecting county where they just took out that one prosecutor?
Yeah. In Bedford County, that district attorney that was just taken down is not even 10 minutes across the border from Fayette County. So, yeah.
Okay. So same swamp, right? And because we're going to, we can definitively point to that and say, look, pal, this gets as ugly as you want it to. We're not going to go there. We don't want to go there. Don't make us go there. So,
But we have the same people that just took your DA that was only 10 minutes away down. We have those same people working in this case. So do you really want to go there?
Right.
Pretty much. Agreed.
I think one of the things that I do is I take and I do a couple different versions of the order. I'll sign off on and put a line on there for you to sign off on it.
Okay.
See if I'll make a secondary copy of it and then just put a line for the judge to sign and let him decide what version of this do you want to do. We're amicable. We'll do it any way you want. Right. And it's if they want to use my signature and blame me, hey, that's what the fiduciary is for. It's what that's for. So, so be it. Fine. And, I'll play the heavy. You want me to play the heavy? I'm no problem.
I know that too. But the thing is the only thing we're asking is for the kids to come home. We're not asking for suing. We're not asking for any of that crap that, we could. Yeah. But the thing is all we want is the kids to come home where they belong for the last 9 years. Right.
And the situation is I'm struggling a little bit back and forth in your case because there's an issue that I have brought up, and I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but it did need to be said in those cases. And that is, I pointed out the clear obviousness of them using children as human shields in a judicial process. It is what it is. And
it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I said, again, whether it's coming from me, whether it's because of what's behind me on the wall, flip a coin, who the hell knows? But, it's provoking the correct reaction, so much so that, I finally got through the request and got all the stuff sent up to Washington, D.C. They said, we want to see it. I said, dude, here you go.
Right? That's right.
And, this is not about us going in there and saying you blah, 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 and this blah, blah, and that blah, blah. It's like, no, time out.
Truth is the truth.
Yeah, we can go back to this from the Declaration of Independence and say, see where it says mock trials right there? What do you think this is? Right?
Right.
So, it's, that's why I said, this is just me throwing stuff at the wall, which is pretty much what I'm pretty good at doing. And,
I have people that are willing to walk in and be recovery agents and demand my children home, but I'm trying not to go that route. I'm trying to let you and everybody work together, like they said from the get-go. Okay, we'll work with Chris Hallett. We'll work with Eve Claus. Okay, well then work with them. Don't, you know what I mean? Don't just sit there and do nothing.
Right. Well, and again, that's why I said I think by us shifting tactics on this and going back to that, original point, that original affidavit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we can say, you know, hey, look, we know you accepted this as truth. It ain't, right? And here's how we can definitively show this. And, you know, as far as saving face for the court is concerned, hey, I volunteer. Where do I sign? Right there? Okay, no problem. And, you know, that's why I said it at this point, anything has the virtue of never having been tried. And because we know that there's definitive movement, they're starting to test the science. They're figuring out that it works, and it works well. You know, it's just, you know, hey, we're going to put the key in and turn the sucker on again. You know, it is what it is.
Right. You know, this is the funny part of everything that I would love to just ask the judge or anybody that has had anything to do with my case. What would you have done if you had 30 broken bones in one leg, flipped upside down backwards in your lap, and was told you could never walk again, and you were heavily medicated at the time? You know, on 3 prescribed one of the heaviest narcotics there is. Okay, so what would you have done? Would you have sat there and read the paper, or would you wanted to get them out of your house to, you know, not have to deal with them? I didn't read nothing. I signed because she said it was a guardianship paper. It wasn't.
And again, you know, like I said, you know, we talked about that, and that is basically nothing more than what I called in my initial report a snake oil salesman. It's a snake artist. So, okay. Well, how do we deal with scam artists? If I would go and ask the court how we deal with scam artists, they're going to go back to Schumacher versus Schumacher and say, well, that's fraud. We can go all the way back to there and everything is void.
Day one, yep.
That's what we're going to do, right? So
that's right.
You know, that's why I said it's a simple answer. I mean, there's legal doctrine that says the same thing, the falsus in uno doctrine. False in one thing, false in everything. And it's all, like I said, it's all in the reporting, and it's all in the table of authorities. So, you know, you've got multiple options, guys. You pick the one you like best. You know, I don't care. You just give me a spot to sign and I'll sign it. So
that's right.
You know, I'm kind of half expecting that mailbox to start filling up here at any given moment. So
I'm sure.
You know, I mean, and that's cool. You know, I'm ready to go. So. But
I'm ready whenever anybody else is ready. I'm just sitting here still waiting and trying to be patient. But man, is it hard.
Oh man, I'm telling you, it's getting this place cleaned up today. So when I sit down and I start writing that thing, I got yours are going to finish. And I got one other one I just got to get finished up as soon as I get it back. I emailed it over to see for her to see what I missed, because I still think I'm missing something. I can't put my head around it. But so while I'm waiting for her to get back to me, I can plow through yours real fast and get it done. And, you know, I'll CC DC, the DC committee at the same time. So they can say, oh, by the way, here's another one. And here's another one. Get used to this reporting, because guess what? This is what you guys said you wanted. No problem. Be careful what you wish for. I can make it easy on you. So
that's absolutely right. And you know who else I sent my stuff to, and I sent it, and they got it this week. So I got the phone call saying that they accepted it, and you know what's going on with that. But I can't say too much because I don't know who's listening. But you know who's got it.
I hear you.
So I just wanted to kind of get an update and kind of see what's going on and all that too. But I'll be listening in. Go next caller if you want. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, Liz, we'll be talking soon, hon.
All right.
Okay. You too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in just really quick and advocate out this idea. Nicholas Herring made the comment a little bit earlier that states need to be reformed, and just for the viewers that we've got out there and the people that come back and watch this later, that's exactly what we're working on. And I'm I'm going to run through this really quick for you guys. And if you want to join us as co-plaintiffs in the United States Supreme Court, just say, yeah, I'm in, and type it into the chat on this video and say, yes, I'm in. And I'm going to add you to it. But here's a quick rundown on it. This is my rules of the Supreme Court that I have a copy of. And under Rule 20, it says, to justify the granting of any such writ, the petition must show that the writ will aid in the court's appellate jurisdiction, that exceptional circumstances warrant the exercise of the court's discretionary powers, and that adequate relief cannot be obtained in any form from any other court. And that's where we are right now. We can't get any reform. We can't get any redress in any form from any other court. So we're going to go straight to the United States Supreme Court, Rule 20, and we're going to complain about unconstitutional laws that the states have enacted to protect corruption. And the primary jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is whether statutes are unconstitutional or not. And so I think they have to hear a case like that. And we're going to complain that there's no oversight of the legal profession or the judiciary. And we're going to complain that we have no means to enforce a right of due process, that we can't sue judges. They don't allow it. We can't sue the state. There's nothing we can do about it. And we just have to suffer without any means to address grievances against the state. So that's the cause. We're going to go under extraordinary writ under Rule 20 in the nature of mandamus and ask the Supreme Court to order the states to give us redress. And the main redress is when the states are screwing up and they're taking our kids, they're depriving our rights, then we say, just stop right now. I want to assemble a jury. I'm done with this crap with you guys. Let's get a jury and do this right.
Yep.
So if you guys put a note on the chat, say, yes, I'm in. It'll make it easier for me if you'll friend me on Facebook. And then I will add you to a group that we're putting this together. Right now, I think we're going to go 40,000 strong into the United States Supreme Court. I am hopeful that we're going to go in with 250,000 co-plaintiffs and say, you guys need to unscrew this mess. We need to have a means to enforce our right of due process. So let me know you guys are in, and I'm going to turn it back over to the next caller. Thank you guys for listening.
Absolutely, Brother John.
All right. So we got 11:21. Wait. Allison, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for welcoming me. I don't know how to use Skype or whatever. This is the first time I'm on your shows. I messaged you before because I'm Miss Lambert. It's Fisk now because I got a divorce. But the situation with my granddaughter was wrongfully removed in that over false allegations. Okay, and they keep changing the grounds on why they're keeping this child in state custody. It has also been brought to my attention there's Social Security fraud involved with my granddaughter's case. We can validate it because my granddaughter, she gets full Social Security benefits. There's also administrative child support order where the child is getting child support. The state worker and the guardian litem did not report that Social Security, and that report the child support to Social Security Division. Okay, now I mean that's one fraudulent act. Intent to conceal an act of fraud is a criminal action. Okay, the guardian litem is involved in the criminal action. The state worker is involved in criminal action. Okay, we can validate Medicaid fraud on my granddaughter's case. We can validate witness tampering, evidence tampering.
And that's just
It is not just civil rights. I mean, there is criminal intent on my and the judge is an accessory to these acts of crime.
They all
because
are.
At the beginning of my granddaughter's case, Judge John Bloodworth at the 36th district, this is in Butler County, Missouri. Judge Bloodworth was the judge over my granddaughter's case. He did not refuse himself. He was also handling the adoption case on the previous children that were terminated from the mother.
So that's a conflict of interest. So,
oh yeah,
And see, when we did a motion of writ, because the parents did try and file a motion of writ to bring to the court's attention, the judge refused that motion of writ. They threatened to throw the parents in jail if the parents filed a motion of writ. It's even documented on the court record.
Well, and that's just it. You know, when we talk about how they constructed these cases, we can say, look, we know what your end game was. Your end game was money. That's a violation.
Obstruction of justice. We can validate judicial misconduct. The judicial misconduct alone is grounds to have a case thrown out and overturned.
Malfeasance of office is like very, very minuscule on the list of or the grand scheme of things. I mean, it's, you know, it boils down to, you know, what we know that they've been trying to do for 230 years, right? You know, we've talked about it on the Monday show, you know, the ministerial enemy, right? That would be the bar. Well,
Round Temple Bar.
That's the one, you know, so I mean, it just, you know, when it's, you know, drain this, you know, when it was funny because in 2000, and, you know, in the 2016 election, they said they wanted the swamp drain, and it was almost in unison that everybody said the bar at the same damn time. I mean, it was like one voice across America all said the bar at the same time. So, like, okay, well, how do we get rid of something that we've had for 230 years and clean this sucker up to where it is, you know, somebody's going to take a few licks on this one, but it's got to be done the right way. And, you know, knowing it was created politically and, you know, unscrewing it politically is also the right answer. So, you know, and that's just it.
The family has filed I've helped the parents file service grievances on the caseworkers. And that because the caseworkers themselves says, oh, well, the parents are supposed to be involved in this child's medical appointments. Okay. But they're non-compliant. The caseworkers say, oh, well, the parents can go to the appointments, but they never notify the parents on the appointments.
Right.
Okay. And then when I bring the incident of Medicaid fraud, and we can validate the Medicaid fraud because we just got through doing a hearing today for the parents, and that because the parents applied for HIPAA. HIPAA is a program in the state of Missouri that helps pay for the medical insurance. Like if the parents are low income and stuff, it helps continue the medical insurance if it's cost effective. Okay. Now, with that being implied, the HIPAA people even verified that Medicaid paid more on the medical bills than the private insurance. That right there is preponderance of evidence of Medicaid fraud with this child that's in state custody. For the simple fact that Medicaid, whenever Medicaid billing is higher than the private insurance, and that because we're going to be filing service grievance on this. We're going to be notifying the Attorney General's office for Medicaid fraud on my granddaughter's case.
Right.
Because that hearing thing can validate because when I talked to when I helped them on their hearing thing, they stated, oh, well, Medicaid paid $3,000 and something for medical billing, and the private insurance only paid $2,000 on the medical billing. Okay, that is a red flag right there for Medicaid fraud.
Right.
And this is a child that's an out-of-home placement. So, I mean, not only are you dealing with Social Security fraud, you're dealing with Medicaid fraud.
Right. Well, when we go back to how do we get the kids home, I found a case that was, going back through my research again. You know, you read so many of these things, half of them you remember and half of them you don't. I ran back across this case from 1923, Mayer versus Nebraska. And basically what that case basically stated was, now mind you, this was before family court. So this fundamental right includes a fundamental constitutionally protected liberty interest in ongoing companionship and society with the child. And this includes protection of the relationship between the parent and child, even if the child is in state custody. So that last part of the sentence is significant, especially to a lot of parents who are going through the whole CPS debacle, right?
Right.
So that's like, we're just talking with Elizabeth here a little bit ago. And in working with hers, I'm actually going back through and I'm replowing through that particular case, Mayor versus Nebraska. So, I'm going to show pretty much the exact similarities, because there's a crap ton of them, believe me, between what happened in that case versus what she just went through. And what adds insult to injury is we've advanced a whole lot in sociology and science, both medical science and social science and, all these other different sciences since 1923. Excuse me. So if that's the case, how can you justify going backwards with the judicial decision when the Supreme Court has already said otherwise? So in other words, because this is not us asking you, this is us telling you.
Right.
You need to sign right there. And, I think we just take it and we make it just that simple. Back them into a corner. There's no rebuttal here. Right. So.
Well, how do you get them in that corner? How do you present that paperwork? Because they block it.
Right.
Because you have this is what we're dealing with in Butler County and Ripley County. The juvenile court in Butler County is in a separate building. Like you got municipal court, which is city court. Then you have the county courthouse, and then you have the juvenile courthouse, which the juvenile courthouse is another dang building that they're doing all these proceedings. And that matter of fact, in some of these smaller communities, they have the juvenile hearing cases right in the Division of Family Services office building. That's not even a court setting.
Right.
It is being right there at Division of Family Services office.
Right.
And they're doing video conferences where they're doing it by a computer.
Well, and this is the problem, and when I came out and started doing what I do, I said, look, I don't have to ask the court these specific questions. I already know what the court's going to say. This is not me asking you. This is me telling you. And it was when I changed my standing from me pleading in court. I don't have to plead in court. I know what the law says. I know what the court's going to say about this. I don't have to ask them. I don't have to waste their time. And when, because I added the fiduciary element to it, that kind of gives me a different, it changes where my feet are in retrospect to this whole process. And because I'm standing in a spot that has existed for 230 years, it's just never been occupied for 230 years. Now it's a whole different animal. So, I'm like, okay, well, I'm standing here. What are we doing? And, this is the significance of what's coming down in September. We're going to be actually face to face with them in September, because we don't have to ask the court what these questions are. We know what they are. Now we're going to change this, and we're going to do it the right way. As far as custody goes, custody is already in law. There is no such thing as custody. How many different languages and in how many different cases does the court have to say? There's a fundamental constitutionally protected liberty interest in ongoing companionship in society with the child. I think that's pretty clear, right? Like the Hardwick case, oh no, you can't lie and maintain immunity. And the Owen versus.
How do you present that?
Yeah.
The question is, you're saying this, but how do you bring this to the court? How do you present this?
That's, again, that's, this is me doing what I do, had the virtue of never having been tried. And I didn't think it was ever going to go where it went, but guess what? It did. And now that it is, it's like, okay, now I need a staff, because guess what? We're going to start doing these by the thousands. And, that's what follow-ups are for, is saying, okay, now that we've accomplished this, now I need a staff. And I've literally asked them for the funds for the staff. And that's
now how do the families become part of this? I mean, I'm the grandmother. I did pay for an attorney to do a motion motion to intervene for a grandparent, because in the state of Missouri they got grandparent rights.
well,
I did pay an attorney to motion to intervene, and they put my motion to intervene on the back burner. They wouldn't even let me intervene.
Right. Well, where the
They
first place
obstructed it.
we start with the agency that was involved in the situation to begin with. That's where the records are, right? So when we say, where's the record of the transaction where the child was taken on this date and was given to so-and-so on this date, where's that record? Well, that record is at we call it DCF in Florida. So I said, okay, well, we're going to start with DCF. And as far as I'm concerned, DCF is a crime scene. And
because that's kidnapping. That's malice prosecution, because here they go in, they come in, they make false allegations against parents. Okay. They don't have any preponderance of evidence. They don't have any evidence for their allegations. They just go on stipulations. Oh, there's potential to have abuse here, so we're going to take this child.
Right.
Because there's potential for abuse, which is a crock of crap, because there's potential for anybody to abuse something. There's potential for anybody to commit a crime.
Well,
but
I said
doesn't mean
a meteor strike here too, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. So
yes.
Potential is not a threshold for an action. Potential is potential. That's theory. That's not.
And see, they come in and they got a order of protection under false pretense.
The commonality is falsehood. That's the only common denominator in every one of these cases.
Oh yeah.
So,
and intent to conceal. I mean, there's intent to conceal crimes.
Collusion.
All through this case is judicial misconduct. All through this case.
Right. Racketeering. Call it whatever you want. The threshold to prove racketeering is a little higher, which I think is one of the reasons why they're trying to dissuade people from using the word collusion, because that means that every one of them is guilty. And I mean every one of them. And if that's
they are,
then they are guilty.
They are. I mean, the judge is guilty of obstruction of justice because that's judicial misconduct. The judge is guilty for obstruction of justice because the judge, he knows, because he does not let, in all these juvenile cases, they do not let the parents speak at all. Right. They don't even let the parents bring in witnesses on their behalf.
Right. You want to know what's scarier than this? And I'm just going to give you a little personal background, because I know it to be fact. In my own particular case, my particular judge was not only physically connected to, but financially connected to the entity that established the false prosecution against me 10 years ago. And
I heard you.
Because I went through and not only made the allegation, I proved it. That was a whole different animal. And, again, at the time I didn't know how significant that was. Turns out it was more significant than I thought, especially in the great scheme of construction of this thing. So, this is look, I don't have to ask you. I'm here to tell you based on what the documents say. I didn't write this crap. This person wrote it. This person wrote it. This person wrote it. And oh yeah, you guys wrote that. So based on all of that, here's what we're going to do to unscrew it. And, is it perfect? No. Is it clunky? Hell yeah. But, hey, at least it's something. It's better than what we had before, which was nothing. So, and, until I get till I get the staff that I've asked for, clearing the runway for the next load of cases is probably the best thing I can do. And
how does one get to be part of those cases? I mean, are you dealing with cases in every state?
Right now, 13. I think 13 different states right now.
Because we're in Missouri. Okay, I'm in Missouri.
I haven't hit Missouri.
I don't know if you're dealing with
I haven't hit Missouri yet. That's one I haven't hit yet.
Well, you need to hit Missouri because there is Social Security fraud, there's Medicaid fraud, there's judicial misconduct, there's criminal intent to conceal criminal activity. We have children. No, there is children in the state of Missouri that are being murdered in foster care for life insurance policies.
Jump in there, Kirk. What did you want to add to that?
This is everywhere, and I'll even go so far as worldwide, folks. I mean, this is. We hear people all the time. I see people making posts all the time. Oh, it's so corrupt here. It's so corrupt. It's everywhere.
Right.
Go back to Agenda 21 and Saul Alinsky's basically how to take over a country. This is all written out. It's planned how they do this. It's.
Yeah, the stories are saying that it's the same. I saw Linda made the comment on here. Oh my God, this is identical. It's identical everywhere. They have the same crap that they pull in every courtroom across the country. And, that's where we're going to go to the Supreme Court and see if we can unscrew this mess.
And again, I want to reiterate.
My granddaughter nearly drowned, and that my granddaughter was in a drowning incident. Okay, and I mean, there's a doctor on the foster care provider. The doctor even reported abuse and neglect on the foster care provider because the child was removed from the placement provider, put at Reagan Jordan facility, and that because the child was failing to thrive in the placement. Because her weight was so low and her health deteriorated.
Right.
And then that same year, after they got the child back, they had a drowning incident with the child because the child had tubes put in her ear because my granddaughter was born with cleft palate. Okay? Mm-hmm. And because of the cleft palate, they had to put tubes in her ears. The placement provider was told not to give this child a bath, and that if you do it, sponge bath, and not put her in the tub. The placement provider left the child in the tub, and the child drowned. They had to air evac the child, and they never even notified the parents of the drowning.
Man. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to add is that, it's not just family courts. It's every single court, this admiralty jurisdiction.
Helen just brought it up, too, because I'm seeing
Levecki is in every court.
Yeah. Helen made the comment that they're stealing senior citizens and locking them in nursing homes, and then they sell off all their assets.
Yep.
Pay for that nursing care. And this has been kind of a new recent trend, I think, that's happened in the last 5-7 years that they've started up with that crap.
Push it back at least 10. I'm aware.
Oh, yeah. They're also doing that to younger people that got substance abuse problems. Now, get this. Okay. In the 36th district, we have a judge. His name's Thomas Swindle. Okay. This judge, his wife is Angela Swindle. Okay. She is on the SAT-TOP board, the one that does the drug treatment program and the counseling programs. So and she's also a probation officer. So she handles the probation and parole programs. She handles the drug treatment. When that judge sentences somebody for drug court, they have to go through his wife's office. So that's conflict of interest right there. But they say, and that because when I tried filing a complaint on the judge, they said, there's no conflict of interest there. Like hell there ain't.
Right.
I saw Sandy's ex was a lawyer, man, and that's just bad news. I had a friend here in Tennessee. Her husband was a judge and a part-time judge, and obviously an attorney. And she's just like, you could have everything. Just let me keep my ass intact. She knew the game, and she's like, I just let me out of this thing without destroying me.
Right.
Keep all the money.
Those of us who have been there, done this before, and we know it when we see it. When we hit the door and we're just standing there with kind of the arms crossed, standing there looking at him going, don't even think about it. And they know they're caught. They can't. They're like, that's it. We're done. And now it's a matter of what do we replace their butts with? They already know they're fired. I mean, that's a given, for Christ's sakes. It's what do we replace their
it doesn't matter if you fire them. They're still liable. I mean, they should be liable for civil action for damages that they have done.
if I don't know if you've studied world courts or not, but the "I was just following orders" argument didn't work for Calais at My Lai, and it didn't work for the Nazis in Nuremberg either. So, this crap of, "Oh, I was just following orders." Bullshit. That ain't gonna fly, Bubba. Don't even dream it. So, and that's why I said, right now it's not a matter of are they fired. They know they're fired. That's probably one of the reasons why you're not seeing a whole lot of movement. It's it's what do we replace their butts with, and that's why I said,
well, maybe everybody should write a letter to, I don't know if the president, I mean, he's the commander in chief, write a letter to the president for reform, and family courts should have stipulations on it. Unless the parents are actually criminally charged,
right,
they shouldn't have grounds to take these children away.
Well, there's
because
your answer.
And all across the nation, these children that are being removed, the parents are never criminally charged. Okay,
well,
but their rights are terminated.
Right.
Money is extorted from them for administrative child support orders. And it doesn't matter if the parent's disabled on Social Security. They still obtain administrative child support order, even on a parent that's on Social Security. That is fraud. Because that child is eligible for Social Security as a dependent. Because if the parents are disabled, the child is a dependent that is eligible for Social Security. Right. And then they have those parents pay child support. And then they tell some of these parents, oh, well, if you want to have the right to see your child, you better get a job. Because I've helped parents over here in Ripley County. I helped this one mother, and that they told the mother, oh, well, you have a work service agreement. One is yours. Okay, I'll be answering. That on a work service grievance, they told the mother on her work service grievance, you have to get a job in order to see your children.
Oh yeah, yep, been there,
and she
done
agreed
that.
to it because she had a work comp case, a pending disability case, but she ended up going to work, and that lost her work comp case, lost her disability case, and it almost killed her because she had to get put on dialysis because she wasn't really healthy enough to work.
Right. Well, that was where I went into in my cases that I've been working for over the last year, and I finally laid it down. I said, you know what you're doing? You're using children as human shields in a judicial process, and you damn sure can't do that.
So they're using children to extort and exploit funding.
Well, that's a human shield in a judicial process. I mean, it is what it is.
Human rights violations, human trafficking under Section B, and it's embezzlement under Title 18, subsection 643.
Right. That's it. It's, and that's why I did when I did the Weaponized Family Court Report series, I used Trump's executive order 13818, right? Because that's exactly what it is, right? And at this point in time, we don't give a damn how it got started. We already know how it got started. We bared witness to every bit of it.
I tell you,
into the backyard. It is what it is.
I do appreciate you folks taking my phone call and hearing my gripes. I mean, I know that I'm basically put on hold. I'm at a standstill. I'm up against the wall. All I'm doing is filing complaints. I'm filing complaints on attorneys. I'm filing complaints on judges. I'm submitting my stuff. I'm helping the parents and other parents file complaints on Social Security, reporting Social Security fraud.
Right.
Because these caseworkers, that's criminal intent to conceal, and that they are accessories to fraud. They can face criminal charges just like the guardian litem can. They might say that they can't, but yes. And when those guardian litems get prosecuted for an accessory to fraud, they can lose their license to practice law. That's my way of doing it. And that's how I'm going to pursue it. And I'm going to help these parents pursue that. I'll be put on hold on that. I mean, I'll wait until you guys take your action, get your funding or whatever. But I'll take my route, and then I'm going to be posting social media. I'm going to be taking an ad out in the newspaper and letting these parents know, hey, you need to file a complaint with Social Security Division. This is the evidence you need to submit.
Also,
if you are a disabled parent and your child's in state custody, that state custody's got an administrative child support order. You better damn well file a complaint with Social Security Division for Social Security fraud. And the victim of the fraud is your child.
That's right.
The perpetrator of the fraud, the perpetrator of the act of fraud is the caseworker and the guardian litem, because that guardian litem, They are the legal representative for that child.
Mhm.
They are legally supposed to report that Social Security, and they're supposed to report to Social Security any child support that they get.
That's
Intent to conceal fraud is a criminal act. They are committing a criminal act, which means they can be held liable for that criminal act. They can face criminal charges.
That's right, Linda. But you're only halfway there, honey. Because guess who else is the victim of this whole monstrosity? And it only took us how many years to figure it out? It's the court is the one who is actually also a victim of the actors who are working within it.
Oh, yeah,
That's
they're misusing their position as government. That's why you can file a complaint on the caseworkers. You
That's
can
why-
file a complaint on the caseworker for misuse of government position, dereliction of duty as a state official.
You
Because
have been.
that
That's the
state
thing.
worker,
They're not.
they are supposed to be reporting that child support.
That's the funny thing. These social workers, you know, I even read my Idaho code. We already kind of know all this. At least some of us do. It's a private corporation.
It's right.
This is not an agency, lawfully created agency under the state.
Correct.
So that actually makes, social services void. They have no authority, and you can't expand somebody's power through statutory law.
Well, statutes are not law, right?
Right.
Statutes is the stuff that we use to govern them with, right?
Supposed to be.
So because they're
All
reverse
policy.
crap, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's what it boils down to. They're literally reverse practicing it, and now they're caught. They did it on purpose because for all of the reasons that we already know. But
Get away with it.
all of that shit aside, this is the stuff that you can't do, and we're coming in there and we're going to do it, and we're going to do it this way, and we're going to unscrew it. And as long as we keep going at it from that angle, it is what it is. It's like I was saying earlier, I forget, somebody had made a comment. I said, if there was something that they could do against me, they would have done it by now. So I'm 28 years, good standing, never been arrested. They tried to charge me, but even that didn't stick because there was no police report. There was no crime scene.
There's no preponderance of evidence. They had no probable cause statement. They had no preponderance of evidence. They could not proceed with the charges.
Honey, they had no crime scene. There was no crime, period. It was a false allegation. So because of that, and because of just me being me, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm a guy. Maybe it's just, who the hell knows? But the point is I just said, okay, that's it. I'm dropping the hammer on you and you're done. And so far, nobody has said, oh, no, you're not, because they know they can't. So it's, chicken or the egg is kind of where I'm at with it. And, I've said, that's why I said to Congress, I said, look, you guys wrote this, created this son of a bitch. Now we got to go in and unscrew it. Well, I can unscrew it. Here's what I need from you. And, now it's just a matter of waiting for them to respond and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Go to work, go do it. So
I tell you, I think that, and I don't want people to get discouraged out there because change is coming. Public awareness is increasing because of social media. Even the CNN reported about judicial misconduct.
Yep.
Recently. That never would have happened 5 years ago.
No.
So I think, in the Ninth Circuit, the chief judge of the Ninth Circuit resigned under sexual misconduct allegations. That never would have happened 5 years ago.
See, nobody knows about the judicial misconduct. Nobody knows anything like that. A lot of people, they don't know the law. They don't know that any citizen that has a case, you can go up and file a judicial misconduct complaint. Okay. Right. When you file that judicial misconduct complaint, it has to be on one page. Okay. You have to present it to your county clerk and to the clerk of court. It has to be in a sealed envelope. You can Google it. You can Google judicial misconduct, and they will tell you the step and procedure and how to do it.
Yeah,
perhaps if more families do that, maybe these judges will be a little more accountable for their behavior instead of just automatically taking family services or children's services statements as the law when it's not, because you have government officials that are overstepping their bounds.
Well,
they're misusing their position of a government official.
Here's where it got bad in Ohio. When I filed my judicial complaint, guess whose desk it went to? My judge. Why? Because she was the chair of the Judicial Complaint Committee. I'm thinking to myself.
Well, then she couldn't have done anything. Even though it went to her, it had to be handed up the chain of command. She couldn't oversee it because with that in fact, she could try and throw it away.
She took that son of a bitch and dropped it in the shredder. I know it for a fact. Because I called her. And, that's why I said every one of these cases is a little unique. And, she was probably thinking I was just going to turn tail and go the other way like everybody else does. No, I'm too much of an asshole to do that. So you're going to pay the price. And that's basically kind of the short version of how I got started. That was a pissing contest between me and her. And I just showed her mine's bigger. That's all. So, it is. So, it's just.
Yeah, but see what people don't realize? Now get this. And this was brought to my attention by another individual. The judge has to be an attorney before they're a judge. Do you know you can file a complaint on a judge to the lawyer's bar just as well as on the judge?
Did that too.
Because all judges are attorneys before they become judges.
Yep. And some of them, believe it or not.
That's not always true.
Come to find out.
Can anybody hear me? Because that's not always true.
In Ohio, come to find out, they can not only sit the bench, but they can also maintain a practice while they're sitting on the bench.
Oh, yeah. Dean Million. Okay, now this is over in Poplar Bluff. Dean Million is the Poplar Bluff municipal judge. Okay, but Dean Million is also the attorney that represents Division of Children's Services through the juvenile courts. At one time, he was a juvenile officer himself.
Right.
So he had to step down from a juvenile officer because there were some family members that said, "Wait a minute, you're triple dipping.
Right.
You're being paid as a municipal court judge. You're being paid as an attorney, and you're also trying to be a juvenile officer."
This is exactly where I went with it, because that's exactly what I did. I followed the money, right? And because I followed the money and I did the audit, and then I dropped the audit down on them, and I just happen to know what the word is called in law, which is an emolument, which is the one thing they can't do. That's basically the son of a bitch moment, right? And that was when they found out that not only did I claim that I was bigger than them, I showed them. And, that's kind of where it, so that's why I say, and I've done a couple of videos for the kids here in the group. And, I said, look, it starts with an emolument. The RICO is the process, right? That's all the stuff in between, the racketeering and the malfeasance of office and the conflicts of interest and all
of that.
Well,
the problem with RICO and racketeering is you have to name each individual. And when you file a RICO complaint, you have to file. You have to let them know which individual, how is it RICO, and you have to let. And when you file the RICO complaint, it has to be specific. It has to be very specific. You have to file, and that saying, okay, this judge is in that RICO, and how do they do the RICO? Because all the judge got to do is claim plausible deniability, saying, "Well, I only hear the case. I'm not profiting from it." But yet, these judges are the ones that are they're promoting the adoption thing.
Right.
They're going to these benefits, and that's ethics violation.
Oh,
that's clear ethics violation, because here you got a judge that is going to these adoption ribbon cutting places, going to these these things that are doing fundraisers for the adoption thing and promoting it.
There's a
and,
name.
and collecting funds, and that's ethics violation.
And sponsoring it. Jeez.
Yeah,
There's
and
a
that's ethics violation.
The name for that list is called a certificate of interested persons, right? So when you're talking about actually writing your document, okay, you got to construct what's called a list of certificate of interested persons. And that list in the rules of the court is significant because, like Kirk says, CPS is a private corporation. What's their corporate ticker or corporate ID number for the stock exchange, right? So if you go research the CPS, find out what corporation they're connected to, you can take them all the way to the New York Stock Exchange and really hit them where they live in their shareholders. Because what you've done is you've just bypassed the entire court and gone straight to the shareholders by doing it that way.
Yeah, but how do you get that information is the problem.
Well,
I mean,
it takes a lot of homework, believe me. And but you can find it. It is out there. Dun and Bradstreet. Yeah, start with Dun and Bradstreet if you really want to find out who's who. So.
Well, again, I thank you guys for taking my phone call. I'll get off the line so you can let somebody else come on the line.
All righty, we'll be talking.
And I'll be watching your stuff, and maybe eventually you'll get your funding and stuff where you could take on all these things, because something needs to be done. Right. I mean, they're accessories to fraud. The Social Security fraud. This is ridiculous. And it's like they think these are state officials, these are government officials, and they think they're above the law.
Right. They just don't think the law applies to them.
Yeah, well, that's what they get for thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, God bless you guys, and continue with what you're doing, helping these people. Like I said, I'll do what I'm doing on my end until you guys can get your funding, and maybe I can contact you and help some other families where we can proceed with, because a class action lawsuit needs to be done.
Oh yeah.
Plain and simple. Because these state agencies, they've overstepped their authority.
Oh,
they've misused their position.
Yeah, I saw Helen Taylor said she's a retired Missouri judge. I don't know if that's a typo, but if you're a retired Missouri judge, I would love to get a call in from that person.
Who?
Huh?
Who was that, John? I'm going back through the comments now.
So Helen Taylor, she typed in, she said, I'm a retired Missouri judge. I would like to get a member of the judiciary to call in.
Oh, he just wants to skip over me.
Huh?
Who's me? Who's me?
I'm unmuted. I chimed in a little bit. Was that creepy? I chimed in a little bit. Whatever.
No, you did. You chimed in right over the top.
I don't know who that was. She was a very sweet woman. I think I might have creeped her out a little bit, but I chimed in a little bit. I'm like, it doesn't happen like that. Like, I was like God, like chiming in. Anyhow, hey guys, how are you doing? For once, hello, Allie. Are you gonna hear me?
I sure can.
Am I too loud? Am I loud? I don't know.
No, you're fine.
What'd you say?
Okay, so I'm only on my phone. I don't have any, like, I can't see this or hear it like live, so I'm just on the phone. Oh gosh, I had so many things I wanted to say. Now I like forget them all because I'm waiting in line for like a half hour.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's cool. Okay, so back it up to the law. All right, so you guys know law so well. You're writing things, you're doing them left and right, pumping them out, whatever. But what about the fact that Americans lost their rights back when we went bankrupt back in the 1930s? What do you think about that? I have to know about that.
Okay.
Before we step forward in any conversation. All right.
Okay, I'm going to answer that question because the Supreme Court just came out here recently, and I cannot remember the case, but I do know it's here somewhere in the homework. basically the Supreme Court said that the corporation does not have jurisdiction over the natural man. And why that's significant is because, and again, I think this is due to a lot of good people doing a lot of great things. Take Ken Scott, for example. He has been pounding them away with the whole birth certificate thing and, the whole footprints on the piece of paper and sending them out to sea and that. And however it is he's been doing that and whatever it is he's doing.
But do you think it, well, I know where you're going with this, but do you think it's going to be, we've already lost all of that in the 30s, so do you think we're going to get it back?
Oh,
How do you lose something and get it back?
I think
by rules and regulations. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, and here's what it is, because the more stuff we throw at them, okay, and we're saying, look, we can clearly show that these are unlawful attornments, right? I mean, it is what it is. In other words,
it is constructive fraud.
Yeah. It's, and because we're working with them in the way we're doing it, it's like, look, I understand the positions of the court. I know what every little piece of part of this court is, including the thing you're sitting in. So that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the actions that have happened in this room, unbeknownst to you and me and everybody else here. What are we going to do to unscrew it? And you're starting to see that there are certain states and even Supreme Court's coming out and they're starting to reverse a whole lot of this crap because they're going, son of a bitch. I knew it. They're going in. You know what? It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to work. That's what I tell everybody. So, do what you're good at, because whether you know it or whether you don't know it, they are listening. I mean, there are plenty of good.
You honestly think that when that flag went to yellow, red, and blue, whatever, gold, we'll call it gold, red, and blue. And now it's all in the media, false flag. Well, we are standing under a false flag, meaning false flag of our nation. I don't care what they say in the media as news coverage or all that bullshit. I'm saying we're standing under a false flag overall. No longer red, white, and blue. Right. It's gold, red, and blue, and that's where it is. That's how it is everywhere across this whole nation. And you think, honestly, these little tiny things that are being tweaked or amended or seen state by state, like whatever, little by little, we really lost our Constitution back in the 30s when we really sold ourselves to the devil, however you want to call it. Sold our soul. It's gone. Our money means nothing. We got rid of our gold and silver. Our money means nothing. We own nothing. If we go to war right now, just pray to God that you survive, because it's going to go down like it's going to be horrible. It's not going to be over. We're going to throw bombs on Syria. It's going to be horrible.
Right. Well,
you better pray that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm yelling.
Yeah, that's all right. Trump has reinstituted the gold standard. So, yes, we do have our own currency back, right?
Where? We're 20, how many trillions in debt? Our money means nothing. We owe everybody money. We have nothing. Where does our money stand?
Nothing.
Bitcoin? I mean, what?
So think about this. Stuff that Trump has been doing.
Yeah, because it was never our money that was being spent. We're not the ones liable for that.
I can't hear you guys. I'm sorry, I'm yelling. I can't hear you guys.
Because we're not the ones who spent that money. We're not the ones who signed up for all that garbage. That's where the fraud comes in, right? And because these certain actors, and we pick a politician, I don't care. But because
Chris, you and I are still under this. It doesn't matter. You and I are still lay under this because we are a corporation under this corporation. So we are almost agreeing to it, even though we don't agree to it.
Actually, no, I'm not, because I came out and I claimed my right to be a competing corporation.
You did?
Right? Sure I did. Where do you think E-Claws came from?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to get into that one. Yeah.
Right. So, I said
that right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I just said, you know what? I am of equal standing to you now. Right. So I said, I talk about the word standing a lot because this is your position. And it's not just your position in court. It's your position in government in general. Right. So in my official capacity, walking into the corporation of the United States of America, right, which is a thing and it does exist. So as long as it exists, I'm I'm the loss prevention department. Why? Because
Chris, think about it. You're one person out of like billion. I think about all the people that live in this country that are not, aren't doing what you're doing. They're all fucked. Sorry, I don't mean to swear, but they're all screwed.
Well, it had the virtue of never having been tried, but now that the people have come out and said, we want our country run like a business and business makes money. I said, okay, well, then I'm start listening, right? The ears perk up. Trump wins. And then he says,
yeah, okay. But how many people do you have as a following? I'm saying it's all the masses that live in this country. That's my point. There are so many people that are like, that don't get it.
And don't pay attention to the media crap because the media crap's only telling you.
I haven't watched. I haven't had cable in 9 years. I don't watch. I don't want to pay attention any of that.
They'll tell you everything they think you did wrong, but nobody ever measures success, right? So when they started coming after successful people, that was their worst mistake. I mean, look at Kirk and John and myself, and there's so many successful people,
wonderful people,
that have found, just found a niche to do this, and they're doing excellent work. I mean, excellent work.
I agree. I totally agree. Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
but
what do you guys think?
What about the masses that are not seeing this? Is my point.
Oh well, they're seeing it.
That's why.
Fuck them. Whatever happens, they die. They die and they just crumble. I mean, I don't know. I just.
Well, I told him. I said, "You guys are not the only ones to do this. We're nothing but bugs on the windshield of time. What the hell do you guys think you're doing with this unlawful attorney bullshit? It doesn't mean anything. It's fiction. Quit doing it." So, and they did. They're like, crap, we're caught. It is what it is. So,
right. And given what Trump is trying to do, one of the first things he did when he got into office was remove us from the Trans-Pacific Partnership Network. Okay. That saved us a few $1 billion a year. And he's slowly removing us from all this debt that we have to keep paying to these other nations and other countries and other states. So that offset of, that balance sheet you do over there, income and output, okay, costs,
right?
Like the costs are being lowered by pulling out of supporting these other nations, countries, and states. So, I mean, that's going to lower our taxes. And that's part of the reason why Trump's being attacked is because he's a businessman. He's pretty intelligent in what he does there. I mean, I don't know how many of you out there ran your own business and know what it takes to run a business. So Trump's got over 100 some businesses that he maintains. And he's not just one business, so he's a busy man long before he became president. He didn't have to drop everything he was doing to become president. So, and he's not a politician. He's never been in politics. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't take any money. He donates it right back. So, the thing is that offset is going to be paid on that deficit. It will get paid off. And he has talked about that. We're going to get this stuff paid off. Now, there's also another thing that I came across here I don't know, 6-8 months ago, maybe. There was like a timeline for the trust. You know, the United States was put into trust. That's a trust that we have. Actually came due somewhere around 2014, something like that. And several of the trustees on the trust account signed off on it. And the trust account has actually been shifted and has been told to President Trump that he now has full control of that trust. So, and this was like right there just before he got elected, that, you know, this is what's going on. So there's some people that are what we'll call the deep state that have been in charge for so long, don't like that power being ripped from them. And not only that, now they're going down for serious human rights violations and human trafficking. And we're talking about pharmaceutical companies, vaccine makers, the doctors who administer the vaccines, the doctors that administer these medications to, you know, children in foster care. Oh, well, you got you don't even have to be in foster care to get prescribed medication anymore for, you know, a 4-year-old, 6-year-old. They'll give him drugs to any child out there right now. So that's something that Trump has come right straight out and said, look, we're going after people that are poisoning our children and the people of this country. That's straight out of Trump's mouth.
There's a point that I want to make on that. So one of President Trump's executive orders blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights violations and corruption. And he made the point in there that that it causes devastating impact to individuals and it affects the economic markets. Mm-hmm. So he knows that this corruption is damaging the country, and I think he's doing some work in that regard. Right. I've you know, everybody that's out there in this movement, you know, I think, you know, they're fighting for new legislation, doing demonstrations, and going after individual bad actors. What we're doing here is we're working on the system. We're getting to the root of the problem, and we're trying to address it and demand reform. I don't think there's anybody else out there that I know of that's saying we're exercising our right to reform the state government, and we're doing it in federal court. We're not raising arms. We're not encouraging other people to raise arms. We're going to the federal government saying our state needs to be reformed. They've enacted these unconstitutional laws. We have no means to address grievances against the state. We want reform. We want to, when these guys violate our rights, we want a way to complain about it and get it fixed. Right. So one of the arguments, to get back to the topic we were on just a minute ago, I get sidetracked easy, but
don't we all?
But
I hate it when I do that.
The impact on the economic markets that's caused by this corruption, when, you know, very often high earning individuals are targeted. You know, because who better to pay billable hours than somebody that makes a lot of money? So that's one group that they love to go after, is high earning individuals. And to them, high earning individuals, you know, it may not be 200, 300,000 a year. That's 75 grand a year, you know. And if you can get all of the life savings and make them sell all their property to pay their billable hours, for somebody making 75 grand, that's good scratch for them, man. They can get a couple $100 grand out of that deal, you know, and not just make you sell all your assets, but bury you in debt. And so then you got to claim bankruptcy. So then they get all the money from the credit card companies too. And everybody else, so you take loans out so you can pay these bozos. Now, what that does is now you've taken a person who used to be a person who contributed to society, who innovated and worked in business, who created jobs, and now you've emotionally and financially destroyed that person, and they're no longer productive in society. And that's happening to a large demographic of this country. And when that happens, and it is happening, it contracts the entire GDP of our whole country. So this is not a sustainable business model for these bozos. You can't keep doing that and get to the end of the road and get to a place where there's money to be had, because there isn't going to be any money to have, because we're not going to have any. And they need to stop this crap. And I think, by that executive order, I think President Trump understands that these guys are screwing up everything, and we got to unscrew it. So
yes,
John
everything
Schaefer
that I've
make
seen
it today.
him talk about through his campaign, it's just like he drops little word bombs and little phrases here and there, and it's like all the rabbit holes that I've been down in the last 23 years doing my research of this, that, and the other. And let me tell you, I've been through quite a few different rabbit holes, just like some of the other people here, Ken Scott's, he knows. It's just like when you have done this research and I sat there and I listened to the words coming out of his mouth.
Right.
And he drops them little word bombs and little phrases. It's like, I know that he knows.
Right. Well, you think about it and you start to go back through it and you go, well, what is it that we've been missing all along? Right. It's, I stopped looking at the things that were there, and I started looking for the things that weren't there that were supposed to be there. Right. And I said, okay, let's start with this, because we already know what they're claiming. We already know what they're trying to do. I don't give a crap. Doesn't mean anything. What's missing is this stuff. I said, well, because this stuff is here, it needs to be practiced. And, when you talk about, like, for example, the emoluments clause, when the emoluments clause itself, as it relates to the original 13th Amendment, okay, those two things work hand in hand, right? When they took out the language of the original 13th Amendment during the War of 1812, which we've discussed, they literally removed the prosecutorial element, right, against the bar actors at that particular point in time. And they left it the way they left it in the actual language to do exactly what they're trying to do to President Trump, because they knew damn well they were at some point in time, we were going to come full circle because they were going to see to it, right? So that's why I said they tried to hide these specific words through other word salad, right? Don't speak the word emoluments. You can't say that, right? Bullshit. Emolument. I was saying as many times as I want to, you bastard.
Yes. And it's an emoluments violation.
Right.
Okay.
And because it's a violation,
it's the unjust enrichment is an emoluments violation.
Correct. Again, thinking back to the forefathers had just gone through this, right?
Right.
When you look back at the Declaration of Independence and you go through every one of those items. I mean, I use mock trials, for example, but you go back through every one of those items they listed. That's exactly the same shit we're going through right now. Ain't nobody going to tell me it ain't, or we wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
so,
Federalist 43, talking about the emoluments clause, James Madison said, but who knows the caprice of the states, what the caprice of the states and intelligent persons might come up with. Who knows what crap? And so that's why we're putting in the emoluments clause.
Right, and that's why I put Federalist 43 part of my original judicial report. It's there for a reason. So, it's having gone through and basically relived the stuff that they've done, I just took bits and pieces from what they've practiced, a whole bunch of stuff that they didn't practice, added some, salt and pepper literature in there, and some different references to different things, and started with the constructing this thing that I call E-clause, and basically said, as many times as we can fight these wars, there's still going to be the same end result. There's still going to be equality, whether you like it or whether you don't. So, You know,
Thomas
it is.
Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson predicted this. 1821, Jefferson said, the germ of destruction of our nation is in the judiciary, working like gravity, gaining a little by night, a little by day,
Yep.
a little today and a little tomorrow, until all the checks and balances are gone, and the government is venal and oppressive, meaning influence for sale and an oppressive government. And we're right back to the same reasons that we declared our independence from Great Britain. He predicted it in 1821 that this crap is going to happen. And sure enough, the judiciary has done exactly what Jefferson was afraid of. And that's why they wrote into our constitutions that we have a right to reform the government. That's why they wrote emoluments clause, is to give us a tool. So we just got to shove it down their throat and say, you know, are you going to follow the Constitution, or do we need to start working on impeachment and military tribunals?
Yep.
Well, it's too late. Trump's already doing that. So, I mean, the reality is what you're going along with what you're talking about. The founders talking about putting that clause in there basically for us to alter, reform, or abolish anything, capital T, anything at any time. That includes these crappy ass amendment, 14th Amendment they put in here. You know, the argument was this, oh, well, that doesn't, that only applies to blah, blah, blah. What? Have you not read Article 6, Clause 2, where it says the judges in every state shall be bound thereby?
Right.
And we're talking about the Bill of Rights, okay? Bill of Rights right here. These are articles in addition to.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that the First Amendment and the Second Amendment seems to apply just fine in the states? Why is it that the 8th, 9th, and 10th Amendment seems to apply just fine in the states, but not the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th?
Well, it's funny because going back to what
the process of law.
Yeah. The
hearings, trials, deprivation of rights.
Well, and again, that's why I said, going back to what John was saying about, you know, the implementation of Federalist 43, when he says, well, we're going into all that. I actually found a pretty good quote from Democracy in America from 1840, written by Alexis de Tocqueville. And it's as part of the report. Lawyers in the United States form a power that envelops society as a whole, penetrates into each of the classes that compose it, works in secret, acts constantly on it without its knowing, and in the end, models it to its own desires. Okay? That's from clear back in 1840. You know, so this report, my initial judicial report, was basically me looking at them, telling them, what the hell do you think you're doing? Like I just got done saying, you're nothing but bugs on the windshield of time. You know, you're a moron. You're not the first one to think of this. And it's, so, you know, the ship talking about, it's new again, right? It's like, oh, horse hockey. I ain't buying it. And they know I ain't buying it because I don't consent to it.
Right. Well, it's, yeah, you know, a lot of us have probably heard this already, is that, oh, well, you don't know the law. Really? Let me put you on judicial notice. You and Rick sitting over there. Just
First time they said that to me, I laughed in their face so hard I almost fell out of the chair.
They didn't like it, but I forced them. I'm putting you on judicial notice. You are being served with one of these right now, because this is the law. Tried telling me the Declaration of Independence wasn't law. I should have asked him, did you go to law school? Did you pass?
Right.
You do understand that ignorance of the law is no excuse. And don't give me the same answer that she gave where, oh, I think I heard that somewhere before, but I'm not sure if it's true. You know, the thing is he actually kind of chuckled under his breath when she said that, my line of questioning right there. He was just like, there he is.
What else do you say to that? You know, did you pass?
It was more the, you do understand that ignorance of the law is no excuse, right?
right?
think they've heard that somewhere before, but I'm not sure if it's true. Whew.
Nicholas just said it right there. Amen, Nicholas. Consent can be also, it can be granted, but it can be ungranted too.
Right.
When
Just try not to do it right in the middle of sex, because
yeah, that's the I've had better moment. Yeah. Sorry. that was
that's just bad timing.
Oh God. Oh, I really am getting too old for this, man. I really am.
I would like to share. I went to a human trafficking event, educational event. There's a coalition here locally that are actually doing it through the hospital here, but a lot more people RSVP'd than they could fit up there. I'd say there was probably there was easily 100 people there. And what was crazy is the gentleman that started off, Kevin, he stood up. He's like, okay, so how many baby boomers we got? And there was quite a few baby boomers in there. And then Gen X, of course, that's where I'm at. I stood up and I'm like, wow, there's like 7 or 8 of us. And then the millennials, that was like 60% of the crowd was millennials. So it was nice to see some people there trying to get educated on basically what to look for, what you're looking for out there when it comes to the sexual side of human trafficking. Now, before I went, I made a comment on the event page and was like, hey, are you guys aware that there's a part B to the human trafficking stuff? Because, based on what their little event was, it didn't really say that it was just the sexual side of things. So I didn't know which way is what. So I made the question, but they were a little leery with that questioning. They were wondering if I was questioning them and whether they were doing it right or whatever, And so at the end, I got to talk to a couple of the leaders there, and I was like, no. I was just seriously just asking the question. Do you guys know that there's a second, there's part B to human trafficking?
Right.
Which falls in line with what we've been kind of talking about tonight is, the debt slave, the peonage, the human rights violations, that human trafficking. And the one gal that runs the coalition there, her and her husband run it. And he pulled out my social security card and I said, now, do you realize that every single person in this room here tonight has already been trafficked? They're human trafficked. They've already been trafficked. She's like, oh, well, yeah, probably, and I said, okay, about the birth certificate, how about social security card? How about your debit card, your credit card, your driver's license, your business license, any other, daycare license, whatever, even your social worker license, your doctor's license, all of those licenses. Yeah, you over there. It's all in capital letters. I said, do you know what that means? And she looks at me and she's like, you're right. They are. I said, yeah, that's a corpsoration. You're dead. And they're trafficking your name. And then I broke out my social security card and I said, okay, are you aware of the number on the back of your social security card? She's like, no. I flipped mine over and I said, you see that? Red, we got the first one is a letter, and that's basically your district, or when you're talking accounting and banking, that's your routing number. And then I said the rest of it's your actual account number for your trust account. And she's like, no, you've got to be kidding me. And I'm like, no, for real. And everything that you do gets discharged through that trust account. So even, I'm like, okay, have you ever gotten a speeding ticket, any kind of traffic ticket? Well, yeah. Okay, you've been trafficked. What? Yeah. Because not only did you have to pay the fine, okay, and this is the part that they don't tell you, because of the bankruptcy and all that stuff, technically that trust account is set up for us to discharge our debts. So when you get charged with a crime or a public offense, which we're not supposed to be in the public, we're supposed to be in the private. Only those that are bound by the Constitution are held to public offenses, to public policy. Okay. So yeah, it was quite interesting talking with them, and another thing they were talking about was how everything's happening out on the internet when it comes to the sexual side of human trafficking. Not everything, but the majority of it is, and we're using Craigslist, and I wish I had my notes with me, Backstage or something like that, which the FBI went in and raided them, shut them down. And Craigslist, I guess, has kind of gotten rid of some of the personals or all of the personals, but it's amazing. Even with the knowledge that I know and I'm aware of, there was still a couple of things that I learned. The Craigslist personals and all, and that other website, but it's, I mean, and the target range, of course, is around 8 to 14 years old, because that's where they're the most vulnerable and the most naive. And there was a couple of people that shared stories about what they've been through, and made some good connections. I think I need to send them some email. And then I brought up, they were talking about security and all these other apps, and they had 2 pages for applications that you could use to like secure your home network and that stuff, and try and keep tabs on your kids. And so I brought up, I'm like, hey, do you guys realize that your router there has all sorts of nifty things in it? Like it has logging. You can turn your data logging on, which logs every single website that whatever computer device goes to. Every single device has a unique called MAC address. Okay, so it's its own identifying marker, and there isn't 2 that are the same. So it registers not only the IP address, but the MAC address of the device. And then it shows what website they've all been to. And I said, not only that, you have parental controls in there. And so he was like, would you like to come, put something together for us for that? I said, yeah, give me half an hour. I'll bring my laptop. I'll bring a dead router over here, and we'll plug in HDMI to the screen. I said, give me half hour. I'll show you how to log into it and, cruise around in there and show you how to set stuff up. It's pretty easy for me, I guess. But this was like the first that any one of them have ever heard about that. And I was like, wow. I don't know. Something simple like that. I mean, everybody has today, in today's day and age, has high-speed internet. You either have DSL or cable, and you got to have a router. And it's all right. It's all built right in there. You just got to log into it. 192.168.0.1 gets you right into your home screen of your device, your router's device. Mm-hmm. And usually, if you've never set it up, the default password is password. So that would be the first thing I would change: password from password to your personal password. Right. And then you go in there and you can turn on your data logging. You can restrict your children's times that they can be on the internet. So there's some tips for you folks out there. If you have your router book, the manual, that'll tell you stuff in there, basic stuff. If it's been somewhat set up and you can't remember, unplug it, plug it back in, there's a little tiny reset button back there. You can reset your whole thing. If you're on DSL, make sure that you write your stuff down, or more than likely, it's already in your paperwork. The person that came and set your DSL up wrote it all down in there. Cable One doesn't really do that. Only DSL does. It's kind of like high-speed dial-up.
Mm-hmm. What's really funky? I was going through my old documents. I found my original birth certificate. And it is, as you can tell, it's not the full sheet of paper, right? It's only a half sheet. because the full sheets, they got the, all of the, all this other crap on them that mine doesn't have. And I started to look through some of it, like, for example, there's Stevens. And, I have all of these original records. I've always kept all this stuff. See, there's the footprints, right? Remember we talked about the footprints and all how that works. So, and I started looking at the birth records, and it asks for the mother, but it doesn't ask for the father. It's got the mother and the infant. So, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going back through this, and it's like, okay, yeah, I see where this is. This is actually the discharge papers, right? Of this would have been Amber's. So there's the discharge papers of when Amber was born. And, the way they sell this crap is look how cute they put their feet prints on there. Isn't that sweet? No. If they're putting it there, there's a reason they've been putting it there. And, it's the more I started to go back through this stuff, the more, I just hate to admit it, pissed me off. And that's the wrong thing to tell an auditor or somebody who does audits the way I do, because I go back through everything. I don't care if it was a handwritten note, which guess what I found? The handwritten notes. So, that's why I said that they bit off more than they could chew when they came after somebody who does what I do for a living. Because I'm a dog with a bone when it comes to stuff like this. And I will catch you. It ain't a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And it's just hell no, right? Hell no. And next thing I know, I've got, everything going on here with you guys and, what we're doing. And which reminds me, today I went ahead, I finally found the time to take and make one file. It's got the original judicial report, which a lot of you guys are using. Keep using it. I also put the follow-up. Okay, that's the one that's before Congress, also with the original report, and they're not even through the original report yet. And if you, this was hilarious. I started thinking about this when they raided Trump's office or Trump's attorney's office. Reminded me of something I wrote on the second paragraph in the preface of this report. Let me read you this and tell me what you think. When what may seem rudimentary to so many when consideration of basic due process basic equal protections and basic due process as it relates to this practice are luxuries it has never been afforded. The fact that it has become arrogant and hostile is a side effect of this type of exile. Right? So when you're talking about the attorney-client privilege and the relationship there, they're starting to examine this, right? So is it coincidence? Could be. More than likely, in my experience, probably not. So they're taking this information that we're giving them and they are plowing through it. I mean, they're back to page 1. That's literally page 1. They preface page 1. So, that's what these guys do. They examine words for a living, right? And, to give them the follow-up, which is more of a direct strike in the science than the original judicial report was, that's the cleanup mechanism. That's what I did. That's what I can do. So, that's, again, like I said, I did that today. It's posted so you guys can use it. And, whatever you need, I posted it there. You guys can download it. I think just under 100 pages for both reports, the original and the follow-up with my original signature on them. Okay. because they've got my original signature on them. That's me giving you consent to use them. So use them. Well, I did it. I didn't do that for me. I did that for you guys. So,
all right, folks. Well, we are out of time for tonight, and we love your work over there, Chris. And I'm so happy that you're able to put that stuff out.
Yep. I'm glad to do it, bro. I'm glad to do it.
Something you've told me. I mean, you can just look at that stuff and just put your stuff right into it. Your information kind of plugs right into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can file it right with your paperwork. So, with that, on those notes, thank you for tuning in tonight. Like, share, follow Kirk's Law Corner. Also, YouTube. We got a new YouTube channel, Kirk's Law Corner, same thing. Thank you, Ted Fogg over there, for producing our show. We love you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Christopher Hallett. Thank you, John Gentry. And John, let's give you like a little 1 minute deal, and then Chris, do 1 minute over there for your closing on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay, so guys, we're setting up a group. I'm working with people across the country, veteran groups, other Facebook forums out there, and we're putting together thousands of people to go to the Supreme Court to demand reform. So you guys want to join in on that, put a note on here. I'll send you a friend request, and I'll invite you to a group. It's basically going to be a class action lawsuit. We're going the people of the United States versus the 50 United States, and we want reform. And we're going to give them some really simple reforms that are easy for them to do. So join in for that, guys, and we're going to fight back and demand reform. Thank y'all for watching.
Thank you, John. Chris?
Yep, just want to let everybody know, Mondays, Wednesdays is us. Also, I understand Jim Cropper's doing a show on Wednesday night. I just found out about that here recently. I know he told me about it.
It's not him.
So stop in and say hi. Huh?
It's Joe Burlyak's show.
Oh, is it Joe's? Yeah, that's what I said. I don't know. I just heard there was another one on tonight.
I know that he does it with him.
Oh, well, anyway, drop in, say hi to those guys, see what they're up to. Stop in on Far From Normal on Tuesdays, same time, same bad channel. Sundays and Thursdays is Restoring Families Internet Radio, and Fridays. Who was on Fridays? Do you remember who was on Fridays?
Is it Brian Kinter's Jam in Your Face?
I think is it Brian's? Okay, I think it's Brian.
I think it's either. I think Randy Davis. I think his is Thursdays.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Is it Sunday? Sunday. Yeah. Spread the love. Go see how see what everybody's up to. Get some good input, great information.
Yeah, and they're over on Future of Our Children Network on Blog Talk Radio. So if you go to blogtalkradio.com and then search for Future of Our Children, you'll get right to them.
Randy does a show on Sunday at 9. Okay. And also, don't forget to stop in and
Easter time.
Hi to Emil.
Easter time. Randy does a show. Rev It Up with Randy Davis. Sundays, 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Yep. Keep your ears peeled to Spreaker and Portal to Justice for Amelia Duran. We love Amelia out there. I stop in and say hi to her a lot. A lot of great information on Spreaker. You can download those and listen to them at your leisure. Driving back and forth to work if you got a long commute. So always, like I said, a lot of great people, a lot of great info. So say hi to everybody for us. Love you guys. Thanks for stopping by. And we'll see you back on Monday.
Much love. We'll see you next week.